Now if I told you we are going to see various foramens in the cranial cavity, I told you that the skull is divided into 3 compartments. This here is the anterior compartment, this is the middle compartment, and this is going to be the posterior compartment. Okay, so in the anterior compartment, if you see, this centermost region here is said to be your crista galli. This is your crista galli. Can you see this? Thereby the adjacent area which you see here is known as your cribriform plate, and just anterior to the cribriform plate you will see the foramen cecum. This is the lesser wing of sphenoid, this is the greater wing of sphenoid, this is the body of the sphenoid bone. Okay, now what you need, you have already seen what is in the anterior region. As soon as you come to the posterior, like the middle cranium part, you will see the most important foramens are going to be present in this particular region. So this, what you see here, this is your optic canal. Okay, the optic nerves and the ophthalmic vein, it passes through these particular structures. I'll also tell you what passes through which structure. So the first thing which we discussed in the anterior part was the cribriform plate. So it is basically your first cranial nerve that is passing through your cribriform plate. Okay, so that is the first cranial nerve, that is the structure which passes through the first your cribriform plate. Now coming to the optic canals, the optic nerve passes through the optic canals. Okay, as soon as we come here to the superior orbital fissure, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this green enlightened structure here inside is the superior orbital fissure. Can you see this structure here, this one, inside one? This is your superior orbital fissure. Okay, again the third cranial nerve, the fourth cranial nerve, the sixth cranial nerve, as well as the first branch of your trigeminal nerve, that is the ophthalmic nerve, it passes through this particular area. So this is your superior orbital fissure. Okay, moving ahead, you have to know that the superior orbital fissure is further divided into 3 compartments. It is the lateral compartment, the middle, and the interior one. And I would be linking a PDF in the description box in which you can see all the attachments and the supplies of the foramens. Okay, please go through that PDF once so that you understand the canals and everything better, what are the structures passing on. So what we have seen till now, this one was your, the center one was the crista galli, then here you have the cribriform plate, here you have the optic canal, lower to the optic canal, inside this area, this green area, this is your superior orbital fissure here. The red structure which you see here, this structure, this is your foramen rotundum. As the name suggests, it is a very round foramen, not a very big, not a very small foramen, and it is just posterior to your superior orbital fissure. This is the foramen rotundum. If you remember, I told you about a mnemonic. That mnemonic says rose. Okay, so do you remember rose? Rose is basically foramen rotundum, foramen ovale, and foramen spinosum. Now if you see here, as I told you, this is your foramen rotundum. Just posterior to the foramen rotundum, here what you have is the foramen ovale, and this small, very small structure which you can see here, this one, this is your foramen spinosum. So you see rotundum, ovale, spinosum. Okay, so these are just in a same line, they are going a little bit in curvature, but yes, they fall on the same plane. Now you need to see what passes through all of this. Through your foramen rotundum passes your maxillary nerve. Through the foramen ovale, there are 4 structures which pass through it. The mandibular nerve passes through it, then your lesser petrosal nerve, some emissary veins, these structures pass through it. Then you have foramen spinosum. You see, it is such a small pinpoint foramen which you see here. Now what is that one particular structure that passes through it? That is your nervosa spinosum. Okay, this is the small structure which passes through this. As it is a very small pinpoint foramen, only one particular structure is passing through it. Now the green structure which you see here, this is your foramen lacerum. Okay, this is the foramen lacerum. Nothing major passes through this foramen, so you can just remember some emissary veins are passing through it. So this is the green one, is foramen lacerum. Now as we have seen about the middle aspect, we come to the cranial, the posterior aspect of the cranial cavity. In the posterior aspect, the one and the foremost prominent one here is your foramen magnum. Okay, this is your foramen magnum. Now foramen magnum, you know, it's a very big foramen and a lot of structures are going to pass through it. Now this whole foramen is divided into 2 components. Imagine this is your foramen a V-like ligament is there, that is the LR ligament. The LR ligament divides the skull into two compartments, the anterior compartment and posterior compartment. ऐसे समझो कि मैग्नम को इस तरह से डिवाइड करा हुआ है एक लिगामेंट ने, ठीक है. तो ये एंटीरियर हो गया, ये पोस्टीरियर हो गया. एंटीरियर पोर्शन जो होता है उससे लिगामेंट्स पास करते हैं, जो पोस्टीरियर होता है उससे आपकी वर्टिब्रल नर्व एंड स्पाइनल नर्व ये सारे कंपोनेंट्स पास करते हैं. अगेन आई हैव लिस्टेड एवरीथिंग डाउन इन द PDF. Please go and check the PDF once. Okay, now this is your foramen magnum. Here if you very carefully see, no, this is your hypoglossal canal. Can you see foramen magnum ke just upar, this is the hypoglossal canal. Of course the hypoglossal nerve is going to pass through it. Now here if you see, this is your jugular foramen. It is such a big foramen, and yes, it is a J-shaped foramen. Maybe it's not appreciated here, but it is a J-shaped foramen, and this is your jugular foramen. So it's very easy to understand. Foramen magnum, just above the magnum you have the hypoglossus, and just above it you have the jugular foramen, which is a J-shaped foramen. Again, the jugular nerve is going to pass through it. Okay, once you come above to the jugular foramen, here you have the internal acoustic meatus, very important from your hearing aspect. And what are the nerves passing through it? The cranial nerve 7 and the cranial nerve 8. 7th is your facial nerve, 8th is your vestibulocochlear nerve. So these are the structure passing through the internal acoustic meatus. So these are the important structure in the posterior cranial. Now as we go to your inferior aspect, a lot of important things can be seen here. We'll start from the posterior region here. Okay, so if you see on the posterior region, this is the foramen magnum. We have already seen it. Now this elevated portion here, okay, this elevated, as I've already marked it, this is your occipital condyles. Okay, one is here, one is here. This is your occipital condyles. I told you in the picture also, if you have seen the earlier part, like the second part of this video, just after the occipital condyle, here what you have is your condylar canal. Okay, and just below it, if you see here somewhere, you're going to have the hypoglossal foramen, and just anterior to it, here you can see, if this is your occipital condyle, this is your occipital condyle, just anterior to it, this is the carotid canal. The internal carotid artery, or the carotid artery, is going to pass through it. Okay, which is one of the most important artery of the head and neck region. So the carotid canal is this structure. As you see, if you see the carotid canal, no, anterior to the carotid canal, this is your ovale and spinosum, always together. No confusion in this, they are always together, one big, one small. This is ovale and this is spinosum, and just a little posterior to it, if you can see here inside. Okay, you see here something is passing through here. This is your superior this is your jugular foramen. You see it is coming out through here. So this is your jugular foramen. कैरोटिड कैनाल के जस्ट अंदर की तरफ एक स्ट्रक्चर जा रहा है. दिस इज योर जुगुलर फोरामेन. ओके, सो दीज वर लाइक द important structures, and now you see this here is the mastoid process. I've already told you. Now if you see this pointed structure here, this is the styloid process. This is mastoid process and this is the styloid process, and just in between of both of them you have the stylomastoid foramen, this green structure. This is the stylomastoid foramen. Okay, now okay, moving ahead, what we have here is, this is your palatal bone. Again, the incisive fossa is somewhere here. The greater palatine fossa, if I can show you, this is your greater palatine fossa, this one. Okay, this is the greater palatine fossa, and here you have the incisive fossa. Now these are the basic bones. If you need to see one thing, this is the vomer bone. Okay, this is vomer bone, which is like the forming the nasal septum. That is the vomer bone. Other bones, like what forms the orbit, what are the parts of mandible, what are the bones that are in relation to the maxilla, these all we can study in the future videos. But today I always I already wanted to show you about the foramens which are present. So I hope by now you're clear what are the different placements of different foramen. And again, it is very important to know the structures which are passing by. Okay, one more thing we have left, that is the nuchal lines. So if you see, these are the nuchal lines. You have one superior nuchal line, one is the inferior nuchal line. These are the two structures. Okay, so this was all about different parts of skulls. I have told you what are the different bones, their positions, what are the different foramens, and all the structures which are passing through these foramens are already listed below in the description. Please go check that PDF, and if there is any confusion, let me know in the comment section. Also, let me know about your reviews, and if you like this video or if it was helpful to you, please share it with your friends as well. Thanks.